The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest today from one of my favorite cities, as most of my listeners know, Orlando, Florida. Mark Raumaker. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, Tim. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Awesome.
Hey, doesn't get much better than down here in Florida, right? We got sunny skies, great weather, beautiful.
I got shorts on in December.
Yeah. Okay, I have shorts on too, but don't tell anybody.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. It's a beautiful day. And so Orlando, Florida, great market. But before we talk about the market or anything else, tell me about you. How'd you get started? I mean, were you a 6-year-old young man tugging at your dad's leg saying, "Hey, Dad, I want to sell homes when I get older"?
No, not at all. I always joke that nobody as a kid wants to be a real estate agent. Like that doesn't even, which I wish they would understand that going back in time. So my story is I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I grew up there. I played sports my whole life and I was nice and mediocre at sports, but I loved it. So I actually got into theater my junior year of high school and I was really good at it. And I had no idea I was. So after my senior year, I actually got accepted into a musical theater conservatory in New York City.
Oh, fantastic.
So I moved to New York City at age 18. I still don't know how my parents let me do that. They supported me. It was awesome. I went there, lived in, Manhattan, and went to school for musical theater. And I did musical theater for about 20 years. So I did Broadway tours. I worked on cruise ships.
Wow.
I worked so I did a lot of stuff. I worked with Dolly Parton. I did the Grease national tour, all that stuff. Yeah. In fact, that's how I met my wife, Sarah, who works. We run the team, the home squad
Were you
team.
Danny? She was Sandy, or what?
No, she wasn't in that. We actually met in The Wedding Singer, the musical. If you've seen that, so I played Glenn Guglia.
Yeah,
Julia
Guglia. Come on,
that was me in the musical, and she played that best friend Holly. So we met there in 2007, and we toured so I toured all over the country for 5 years. It was awesome. And then in about 2012. New York City was great, but we wanted to start maybe having a family, and we did not want to do it in the city. Just with the strollers on the subway, it just didn't sound great. So we thought, where else can we go perform? There was Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Orlando in my head. And so we're like, well, Orlando sounds better. So we came to Orlando. We got jobs at Disney World performing. So we were in the Finding Nemo, the musical. We did the Hoop-de-Doo review. And I also did Beauty and the Beast. So we did that. Yeah. Hoop-de-Doo. That was awesome. So we did that full time. It was great. It was amazing working for the Disney company. But there was no growth. We were getting older. So we started having kids, and you were basically, as an actor, you're on a year-to-year contract. So every year they give you an assessment. They say, hey, you want to come back for a year, and that can continue for 1 year to 30 years, but you never know when your expiration date is up. So I started thinking to myself with kids, I was like, look, I have an expiration date as an actor. They're either going to tell me when it is, or I'm going to tell them when it is. So I started thinking about plan B, and I was always interested in real estate. When I lived in New York, I took a few classes and I was like, oh, I should do it. But I never did it because I was nervous I wasn't going to be good at it because I wasn't committing to it. Well, the way it works at Disney, you have a full-time job, and as an actor, you work about 15 hours a week. So I had all this time. So I was like, oh, I'll jump into real estate. And we had family that was that sold real estate. So we kind of joined their train, joined their expansion team. We were with Keller Williams for a few years. And we started just to think like, oh, let's just do this to see if we're good at it. I don't even know if I like it. Obviously we all watch the HGTV and we're like, oh, I'm going to be good at it. But you never know.
HGTV lied to us a few times, though.
It has a few times. And now on the other side, I'm like, you guys.
But smoke and mirrors, my friend.
Right. But my first year in still having another full-time job, I sold 23 homes. And then my second year, I sold 32 homes. So stopped working at Disney. We actually moved over to EXP in 2018 after 2 years in the business. And we started our team, the Home Squad, but the team was just her and I. So she sold real estate with me as well. And then when we moved over, she went into the transaction management. She was like, the sales kind of stresses me out. I was like, the paperwork stresses me out, and like communication. So we made this other marriage of like, she'll do all the transactions with the clients and I'll do just the sales. So started that and went from there. And then we basically grew the team out. She's become the transaction coordinator for the entire team. And it's, fast forward to 2022, almost 2023. And we have 4 cities, 4 markets, and 20 some agents on our team. So it's been crazy for sure. But that's the story.
That is a great story, man. I didn't expect it. But I'll tell you, in another time when you and I are just kicking back up in Orlando, that happens sometime, that we can swap stories, because it's very similar. And
for real.
And there's not a lot of people that have a story like that. But this is about you.
Were you an actor? Were you a performer?
I was in high school and college.
Got it.
I was an athlete as well. We talked about, so like my son and stuff in athletic, all my sons and myself all were, and then but moved into being in the theater a little bit, not professionally like you, but my son did work at Disney, the one that lives in Orlando now. And but he lives right behind it now. Literally, we sit in the backyard and watch fireworks. So
we do too.
Were you in Windermere?
I was in Windermere. We're in Winter Garden now.
Winter Garden.
For 3 years, we were right. I mean, literally, like from my backyard, we were 2 miles from Magic Kingdom at our old house.
So my son's probably in your old
house. Might be my neighbor. He might have bought it. He might have bought it.
Right. So great story. Definitely looking forward to hearing more about that. And but let's talk about the Home Squad. That's your team. And tell me about how that happened. And tell me about the team a little bit.
Sure. So, I mean, we're basically, when we started the team, again, it was just Sarah and I, but coming from a more traditional team, we, as an actor, it's interesting. Sorry, I'm kind of squirreling a little bit. As an actor, when you walk into a room, to get the job, to get cast in the role, they want to see what makes you different, what makes you special, what makes you authentic to this specific role, character that I haven't seen before. And when I got into real estate, I was like, oh, it's similar to that, I think, right? And then as I was learning it, I was told that here's the script, which I know scripts, but they're like, use it, don't change it. This is the one way to sell real estate. And I was like, I feel like there's a lot of ways to sell real estate. For sure. I don't need to wear, I appreciate it, but you don't need to say the same thing, look the same way. And I was in a world where that was being pushed towards me. Different classes, different trainings. And I think it works for a good amount of people, but it felt like oil and water with me. Like it just did not feel right. So we started the Home Squad. I didn't want a team name that had my name in it, because that just felt, I didn't like that. So in Florida, it's interesting when you name a team, there's a lot of rules with your team name. You can either be like team or group. That's really it. Right. So then I messaged the board and I was like, can we use the name Squad? And they're like, yeah, I guess nobody's asked that. So they were like, yeah. So we're like, all right, well, we're the Home Squad. And we're big into branding. I kept going into listing appointments and buyer appointments and meeting strangers. And I was always like, what does make me authentic? What makes me stand out? And so I was like, well, you need a brand. And so with me is like, I need a logo first. I need like this thing about me that makes me special. And so I created a logo for myself. Basically it came from a nickname that a client called me. I was negotiating for him. He was a buyer and I did something crazy for him. I don't remember specifically what it was. It was like $20,000 in the inspection period. I got off or whatever. It was crazy. And he's like, oh, you totally ninja'd that guy, the other agent. So he started calling me Ninja all the time. And this is before I realized that a lot of people call themselves a real estate ninja, to be honest. I had no idea, but he was just like, Ninja, what's up? I'm closing tomorrow. He just called me Ninja. So I was like, oh, I guess that's kind of a cool story. And like, I think I am good at negotiating. This is working out pretty well. So I basically created me as a real estate agent with a ninja sword and a ninja thing and made a brand. And then my wife became our transaction coordinator. So she became she's really small too. So I called her the tiny closer. We made her a little logo. And then we had one agent join, a friend of ours who was on our old team. And I was like, hey, you should have should have a logo too, right? Listen, and we can,
Right.
maybe we're kind of like the Avengers, right? They all have like their own brand and their own thing,
Yeah.
but then they get together and they're more powerful. So like some people, their favorite's Thor, and some people's their favorite Iron Man, Captain America, blah, blah, blah. So he was like, well, what do I want to be? He's like, I love giving five-star service. So he became the A-lister. Right. So, and his logo is like him on a red carpet with something, looks like a movie star. And then
Right.
slowly people join the team. I'm like, what's your brand? What's your story? Let's make, like, whether it's something you did in your past. We have somebody that's called the Transformer, because he likes to, like, he does a lot of DIY stuff and transforms
Right.
his house, but he can also,
Nice.
so everybody has this story of like who they are. And it's really just a conversation starter. So that's kind of the basis behind like who we are. We call ourselves kind of the misfits of real estate. Everybody's accepted. We have people that drop F-bombs in the meetings, and other people that, good churchgoer. Everybody's different. Everybody's accepting. And, we're all here trying to just like change lives as much as we can and help people.
There you go. That's good stuff, Mark. Yeah. The best people are the churchgoers that drop F-bombs.
Right. I mean, I had a meeting with,
oh, hell
it's
yeah.
crazy.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. All right.
I'll
Yeah.
take
It's
that.
fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
Branding is super important. I mean, I got my Disney shirt on here, right? And you can't see it, but it all
Right.
started with a mouse, right? I mean, that's the brand.
Yep.
So it's super important to brand yourself. I think that's super creative, and more power to you. And I look forward to learning more about that.
Thanks.
So tell me about, so we talked about how you got started. We talked about the team a little bit and kind of how you are. So let's talk about the future a little bit. Nice market. You mentioned something I really didn't know. You talked about 4 different offices or 4 different areas. Are you working different areas other than just Orlando, or?
Yeah, we have a home squad in Nashville, Tennessee. We have a home.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a cool area. Home squad in Louisville, Kentucky, and then
Okay.
another one in Jacksonville.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's the plan ultimately for the home squad nationally?
Sure.
Then I'll go ahead and say it nationally. Is there a plan?
Yeah.
The 3 of 5?
I mean, we've created a lot of systems and processes to basically replicate it if we wanted to.
Okay.
Those cities they feel kind of random, right? The main reason is I already knew people in those cities that I trust a lot with the brand and with the business. So they kind of have basically taken over the leadership role of those teams. I still fund everything, and it's run similar to the Orlando team,
Gotcha.
but they have a little bit more responsibility, but I have basically a revenue share model within my team. So if you bring on an agent to the team, whether they're in our EXP downline or not,
right.
we take from our cut, we take 5% of it and give it back to the agent that introduced them to the team forever and always. So
wow.
basically,
Nice.
yes. So it basically creates this internal team building within the team, right? So if you're bringing on a seasoned agent or a new agent, we're going to give you, every once in a while, it's like, it's $200 or $400 from the closing, but we have a few people on our team that made 7 or 8, 9, 10 grand just from home squad, let alone revenue share. You know what I mean? And it's opened up too with, like, if you meet somebody within EXP and they're not in your downline, at first we were like, well, you can't be on our team then. But then after the first, I was like, well, that feels rude. So I was like, well, how do we capitalize somebody bringing to our team that we're never going to see revenue share from? And so we came up with that model, and it's worked really well. Like everybody understands it and they like it, and it helps them recruit. I don't have to recruit, so that happened in the cities that our Jacksonville team is even existing because a girl in Orlando used to live in Jacksonville. She's like, I have this agent in Jacksonville. She's great. So now there's a Jacksonville team, right?
For
about a year we've had that.
It's
cool.
Just amazing how that works in the EXP system. Not to make this only EXP sided, but I'll say it. If you're one of the other what I call box realtors, which they're all trying to come up with some sort of model similar. It's just kind of funny now. They're like, oh, you know what? We're losing a lot of agents, because that model works. And it does.
Yeah. I mean, and the cap stays the same. And we're a mega icon team. So all my agents are on a $4,000 cap. So it doesn't matter what state or city you're in. It's all the same. So it's really, to me, I mean, I'm not looking ever, but at the same time, like, nobody else can compete with that. I can open up a home squad in any city I want.
You should.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I find the right people, heck yeah. Like if people are,
For
I mean,
sure.
I did talk to one of the girls in South Carolina. She's, I'm curious, but I don't force it on it. I don't push it. I'm not trying to, I'm not like, I got to be in 20 cities by the end of,
Yeah.
I'm like, if an opportunity arises and it's mutual and and I like that person, they like me, we can do business together. You know what I mean? But to me, I'm like, whatever naturally, I feel like the success of is really like the opportunities that arise and taking advantage of it instead of like forcing yourself into
Right.
situations,
It's not like you got a map up on the wall with pins in it.
No, and I
You
thought
know,
there was a moment in my life when we because we went into like those three markets pretty fast. And I was like, oh, I can. And there was like a month where I was like, and then it's like, what am I going to do? Like, just like, it's like throwing
yeah.
darts against the wall. I'm not
Yeah,
going to be the
exactly.
right. It has to be the right thing for sure.
And trust me, they're all out there. I mean, you probably, I don't know if you went to EXP Con, we were out there.
Yeah.
You talk to folks like that all the time. It's like,
Oh yeah, yeah. And if somebody wants to have a conversation, even listen, like message
right,
me like all day
right.
long. Well, I'll show you the model. It's pretty cool and pretty easy. Yeah.
It's very cool. Very, very cool. Perfect, perfect. Well, let's switch gears just a little bit.
Okay.
So let's just say, I come up to Orlando and we do have that little sit down, just, we're gonna shoot the breeze a little bit, talk about
Yeah.
men with 4 kids. And I said, hey, Mark, we've both been in this business a while, and we all go through trials and tribulations, and we're problem solvers. That's what we do, and that's what we do for
Mhm.
people in general. What do you if I had a magic wand, I'm gonna go Harry Potter on you versus
You got
Disney
it.
here.
You got it.
If I had a magic wand, right, and I could solve any day-to-day issue that you wake up and you're always thinking about, doesn't have to be a problem. I hate using the word problem,
Sure.
but there's something you might need a solution for. Anything like that in your business right now? That you think about on a regular basis that you could always use advice on, or I could fix with my magic.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait for you to fix all my problems.
Yeah, yeah, no
Um,
worries.
no, I think as running a team takes on a lot. There's a lot of challenges with it. It's basically making sure that I'm making the right choices. So I always say when I have a person join the team that they're hiring me because they're
Sure.
paying me. I don't pay them, right?
That's a
So they
great
give
way to
me
look at it, Mark.
yeah, they pay me a percentage of their check, and then they could basically hire they could hire a transaction coordinator, a marketing team. They could buy their signs. They could do all that stuff. They could buy social media, but instead they're like, here's a percentage that it's we're on 70-30 split. Here's 30% of my check. You do all that for me. That's a big responsibility for me though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I keep it a pretty open forum. We always have like at least once a year, I basically give them a huge like form to fill out of like what they're liking, what's working for their business, because I'm spending their money. I'm spending my money too, but I put a lot of it back into the team. And I just want to make sure that I'm always questioning what I'm doing. I'm making a big change in our business right now, we hired a videographer, like
Yeah.
with full time and editor to like do a ton of social media content all around Orlando all the time. And I'm pulling back on the online leads. So that kind of stuff, I feel like I have the people to bounce ideas off of, but I don't,
Right.
I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. So I don't
Right.
know whatever, there's a lot of times I look back, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But then there's times I'm like, well, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be making this
Where you're at
right
now.
decision.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think there's I don't think there's a day-to-day problem. I don't wake up like, oh no, this is
You're right.
hovering over me, but just that constant of like, I think this is going to work. You know what I mean? I hope this is going to work. I hope they trust me with this. That'll always kind of be there, I think.
Right. Always a product of being the decision maker, right? I mean,
Sure. Right.
it's always, you have to make a decision. The worst decision is no decision.
Right.
Once you
And you're
make
not
that
going to make
decision,
everybody, not
that's
everybody's going
right.
to be pumped about your decision. Some
Right.
people will question it. But again, I think overall, like we provide enough tools and systems that on top of the marketing, and I feel like everybody's like, oh, okay, Mark's not going to screw us up. He's not going to screw this
Right.
up. I
He's a
haven't
good
yet.
captain. That's what they're saying. He's a good
Yeah.
captain. He's right.
Yeah.
He's got the keel going the right way, and the ship's
Hopefully.
the right way.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, we are getting down to our time a little bit, Mark. I did want to ask, what's the best way to find you if somebody wants to chew your ear off about, maybe working there, or they just want to talk about real estate, they want to list, they want to buy. How do they find
Yeah,
you?
I would say find me on Instagram. That's kind of where I'm living a lot right now. I mean, I have my emails and I have the website and
Mhm.
all that stuff. But I would say Instagram, my handle is mark.raumaker. And then we have an Orlando Home Squad account, and then also the.home.squad is I
Nice.
run all three of those. So we run all three of those, but yeah, Instagram is probably the best way, just a direct message. You can email me, Mark at Orlando Home Squad. My cell phone's 347-368-9140. But yeah, you can Google me, and this will probably come up sometime too, right? You probably found me through Google on this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, as a real estate agent,
Mike.
I'm like, there's no way you
Keep
can't get a hold of me. You know,
Right.
you just
Always.
yeah. When new agents come on, they're like, they get kind of nervous. I'm like, oh, your cell phone is on Google. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
call you. People are gonna just
Yeah.
call you all the time.
It's gonna light up. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Get used to it.
yeah.
So Mark, this is the part of the show as we close out. Like I always say, you're the hit record. I'm just a DJ spinning it. Take us out. Give us some thoughts. Whatever's on your mind, your heart, your soul. It could be about your family. It could be about business itself. Take us out.
Sure.
Tell us what you think.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is give a little bit of advice to what I know, if I was talking to myself, right, from looking in the mirror. I think wherever you are in your career, we're in a market right now, and this is an evergreen video, so somebody might be watching this in 2055. I don't know.
Right.
But I think overall we're in a shifting market. We're in a shifted market, and some people are scared and freaking out. And I think the important thing is to remember that if you should have gotten into this because you like to help people ultimately, right? So if you keep that value, in your core, and remember that, like, some years are going to make more money, some years are going to make less money. That's a commission-based business. But if you're an agent and you're struggling, or you're even having a great year, like, just remember, keep that. Don't do it for the money, right? It's cool and it opens up freedoms for us, but keep that value there. That just, you're always trying to help somebody do something really big in their life, whether it's helping them buy a house, or if you're a team leader, helping an agent, helping clients buy houses, sell houses, and also changing their lives. That's what I think I always try to, like, remind myself and remind agents, that's why we're doing it, helping people at a high level.
Yeah. Great advice, Mark. Good sage advice. I love hearing that. You got a real positive vibe about you. I think that's awesome. Mark Raumaker, the Home Squad, Orlando, Florida, EXP. Check them out. Mark, thanks so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate having you on. Yeah, you having me on.
Yeah.
I love these things. These are so fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and I think you gave some great advice that I think some agents need to hear.
Yeah, again, if somebody's watching this and you have more, I'm an open book, man. I'll help anybody.
You got it. Mark, thanks so much, man. Have a great week. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you up in Orlando soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right.